Aho to ye travellers, cometh young, cometh old. 'Tis adventure we seek for the meek and the bold. A knight and a wizard who drink smashes sour have a magic crusade for you this questing hour.
This is your notice now, everyone. I'm wearing a tubeless dress, topless, tubeless, strapless, Jesus.
Tubeless dress.
I'm wearing a strapless dress, so I just wanted to let everyone know I'm not naked. Not naked on the podcast.
Nikki on the podcast. Okay, fine, I'll get naked too.
All right. Now it's a party.
No.
Not on my Christian podcast.
On the Christian Minecraft server, no.
Anyway.
Hello,
travelers.
Oh, welcome back to the
Welcome back
podcast.
We
it's
missed
a beautiful
you.
Monday.
There it is.
Yeah, it is. How's your week?
It is good. A little tiring, but I definitely had, some break time in between. I got one of my shifts covered, so I had 2 days off instead of one.
Nice.
Yeah, and now I work the weekend and I work some days this week, but not as full as the last 2 weeks have been. So
very good.
Right. Yeah. Paychecks are gonna be good though.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
How's your week, Maggie?
It's good. Yeah. By the time this comes out, I will have had a very busy weekend. I'm going to the Cotton Eye Joe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
My gosh.
My friend wants to ride the bull so bad. And I was like, listen, I've been there.
It'll be so
I'll
fun.
show you the ropes.
I'm so jealous.
Oh, it's gonna be great.
That's gonna be so fun.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Been there, done that. I'll show you the ropes.
Done that. I'll show you the ropes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm very excited. What was our side quest last week?
What was our side quest? Well, we had the Lancelot side quest, which was
such a good side quest.
I just hope y'all completed it, you know? Cut this out.
Register to vote. It was register to vote.
Oh my god, yeah, or do the research.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm already registered to vote, so.
Yeah, it was register to vote, and then our special guest, Ori of the True Essence of True Self podcast, gave you guys your very own quest from her.
Yeah, and it was do something that scares you, or learn something new.
Or, like take a class.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that one was really, really cool. I'm excited to do that one as well.
Really excited to go through this second week. We have another guest for y'all.
Yes, we do.
Can't wait. It's gonna be a great freaking episode.
It's gonna be really good.
We have a nice little lineup for y'all of people with all different backgrounds and experiences, and it's really interesting to hear their stories and their advice and opinions. And I'm really looking forward to having many more guests on the podcast.
Oh, it's so much fun to just bring people in and get to talk to them about the stuff we love and get to hear the stuff they love. Combine it all into one big, beautiful episode. And then you guys get to listen to it. It's so cool.
Exactly. So freaking cool.
It's
so I'm really excited for y'all to see our second guest, of course. But this episode on our fine Monday is another historical episode.
Yes, it is. We're talking about a classic medieval story. You may have read it in middle school. That's where I read it. Beowulf.
Woo!
It is known as like the best story of all time. So we'll see if you agree.
I read it in college because I had a medieval literature class and I did not read it before that. So it was nice.
Yeah,
Took me back.
What did you think of it in college?
I really liked it. So we were like looking through the themes of medieval literature when it came to the viewpoint of medieval literature on nature. And then the viewpoint of like good versus evil. And then we had to kind of combine those themes together to analyze them. But yeah, I really liked reading this Beowulf and also some of the other things we read, which was The Green Knight. We read that also.
Nice.
And then a couple of other things because the nature is like it's almost written so kind of poetically in a lot of medieval literature that it becomes its own entity, like its own idea.
That's so cool.
Of what nature is. And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. And it gives it very humanistic qualities instead of something that's natural. But yeah, I really liked reading it.
I love that. That's so cool. Well, I'd love to hear. Can't wait to hear those insights as we dig into the plots.
Yes.
I read it in like the 8th grade, I think.
Oh.
It was like, like a very condensed version. I hated it. I thought it was so
like,
boring.
This is the worst.
I was like, this is so lame. But we had just finished reading
Why
the
are we
Odyssey,
reading this?
and I loved the Odyssey. And it was like, come on, man, the Odyssey is great, and this is like that but worse.
Horrible.
Yeah, but I mean, reading it again to do like for this, I was like, oh, I think it's actually a really cool story. It brings up a lot of questions about mortality and goodness and what it means to be a hero and a leader, and I think it's very cool. So I'm excited to dig into that. Okay,
all right,
and for you guys watching on YouTube, we made a fancy little PowerPoint for you.
We did. We came prepared. It is literally beautiful.
It's gorgeous. I can't wait for you to see it.
Best freaking PowerPoint ever.
Yeah, it's so nice. We got a theme and everything. We got pictures. We got slides.
It's just a work of art. And this is going to be every Monday.
Every Monday we're going to have a little PowerPoint for you. And then you get to hear our beautiful voices if you're listening on Spotify.
Yes, of course.
Well, let's get into it.
Yeah.
Slide 1. What is Beowulf?
What is Beowulf?
What is Beowulf anyway? A question I ask myself every day.
I think about it and ponder.
Every day, I think.
Every single day. No. Well, ponder no longer. Beowulf is an epic poem that was written by an unknown author, supposedly composed between 700 and 750 AD, we're assuming.
AD, probably AD. Yeah, that's like the medieval period.
Yeah, but yes,
AD, 750-ish.
750-ish. But if you look up, a lot of things online will tell you that it was made between, I think, 950 and like 1,150, because that's when they started taking the pieces of Beowulf that were written and composed and putting them together in one full document around 1000 AD. So it didn't become a full document until around then. So a lot of sources, from what I researched, a lot of sources will tell you that those are the dates that it was made, because who knows? And because it was a bunch of different compositions and pieces that they put together to form one big document, there is a chance that it could be made by many authors and we would have no idea.
That's really interesting.
Isn't that cool?
That is really cool. Yeah. This is in the 1000 is like kind of when the printing press was invented. And so that would have been like, oh, we can make a ton of copies of all of our favorite stories.
Yeah.
But we have to gather these scrolls and put them together
gather the pieces and put them in order.
So like everything that kind of sounds like a Beowulf story, they're like, let's throw it in here. Let's make it into a book.
Yeah. And like, they're gonna love this.
Yeah, this is really good. And it's just like a hodgepodge of a ton of different stories with heroes whose names sound vaguely like Beowulf.
Literally.
Yeah. So we get a really cool story about a really cool hero.
And it's just like, so it's fun to theorize that it was created by like many people, because you know, we all see like collaborations in art all the time between businesses and people and individual people or groups or whatever. But the idea of like this epic, famous piece of medieval literature could be made by like thousands of people who were alive in the earliest of times.
Right?
Like all of their minds being put together to form this beautiful piece of art, and we have no idea.
Yeah, that is, wow. One day we'll get the answers. That's crazy.
I know, imagine.
Yeah, I need to know who wrote this. I need names.
So Beowulf takes place in 6th century Scandinavia and which is current Denmark and Sweden.
Nice. So I'm picturing like big Viking guys and things like
Kinda,
that.
yeah.
I like it. I like it.
But through the story, we get to see the values and traditions of medieval times, and we get a lot of themes of mortality and heroism, and that's the basics of Beowulf for you.
Basics. All right. Well, I'll walk you guys a little bit through the plot.
The story of Beowulf.
The story of Beowulf. And there's 3 main parts. And we get the part 1 where he faces this dude named Grendel. Part 2 where he faces Grendel's mom, which we'll get into that. And then part 3 is like a flash forward and he faces a dragon. And we'll see what happens. So, part 1, Grendel. Beowulf lives in this kingdom called Gateland. But he hears from the Scandinavian kingdom that they're having a huge party and they're going crazy. They're partying it up as those crazy Scandinavians do. And they're so loud and obnoxious that this demon named Grendel wakes up from his demon slumber and starts terrorizing this town because they're just partying too loud.
Like be quiet,
that's
y'all.
His whole beef with them. Yeah, it's like they're too loud, so he starts like killing everyone in their village and all of their crops and livestock and everything.
Awakes from his slumber and just murders the town.
Yeah, and Beowulf, being a young hero, hears about this all the way from Gateland, where he's from, and he says, "I'm gonna go save the Scandinavians, and I'm gonna go, save this kingdom." So he sails down there, and he says, "Hey y'all, I hear you need some help. I will kill Grendel for you." And they're like, "Great, that's awesome. Let's have another party to celebrate how excited we are that you're going to kill Grendel." They have another party because they didn't learn their lesson, obviously. And during this party, a demon named Unferth starts taunting and mocking Beowulf. Like, "You're never going to be able to defeat Grendel. You're no good. You're not a hero." And Beowulf he's young, he's scrappy, he wants to be a hero. And so he shuts it down. He's like, I've done this in my hometown.
I will be the hero.
I'm crazy strong. I'm crazy smart. I'm a hero already. You don't know what you're talking about. So he has like frat boy levels of confidence at this point.
Okay.
Yeah. He is ready to fight, and he's never lost. So he has no reason to believe that he would lose at this point. So he goes against Grendel. He fights crazy hard. They fight for a while. But Beowulf decides to fight unarmed. That's how confident he is. Going against this huge demon, he's like, "I'm going to not bring a weapon at all. I'm just going to fight him with my fists." And he wins. He wins against this like Bigfoot guy.
Yeah, he literally looks like Bigfoot.
Yeah. And so as a trophy, he rips off Grendel's arm with his bare hands again and brings it back to the king as a little trophy.
He's your arm, sir.
Here you go. And so you'll never guess what they do. They have a party. They have a party about it, of course.
Yes, as they should.
They're having like a weeks-long feast to celebrate killing Grendel, and their kingdom is saved. Well, during this party, we enter part 2. A character shows up who looks like she just walked out of a swamp, because she just walked out of a swamp. She is like a fishy woman, as you can see in this beautiful picture. I love this picture so much.
Yeah, for people on YouTube, you can see the picture, but for people on Spotify, she looks like if like a fish and a snake had a baby under the depths of the ocean and it grew claws and could stand up. That's what she looks like.
It's like almost like a mermaid, but if a mermaid lived in like the marshlands.
Yeah, like the lagoons, the dark,
stinky,
swampy,
and slimy. Yeah. So
the bog of eternal stench.
Yeah, she emerges from this bog and crashes this party, and she says, "Beowulf, Grendel was my son. I'm Grendel's mom.
I'm Grendel's mom, and you killed him.
And I'm gonna kill you about it." So everyone is obviously very, they're stressed out. Because they're like, "I thought we got rid of this Grendel problem.
Bro, I thought the party could continue. Why the fuck?"
Yeah. And now we got this mom to worry about. And so Beowulf, he's still confident. He just came off another win. He says, I'm gonna fight you in your own territory, underwater, in the swamp. And I'll win anyway.
And I still will kick your butt.
Yeah, so she, like, slinks back into the water, and he runs after her. And he grabs a big sword, and he goes underwater. Whoosh, and he dives, and he fights this woman underwater.
In her own territory.
Where she lives and breathes. And he's, like, just a human guy.
He's, like, suffocating with his sword.
Yeah. He wins! He wins again! This man cannot lose! He's so good! He's so strong!
He's too good!
Yeah.
Lancelot who?
Right? We thought Lancelot was good. Beowulf is even better.
Beowulf even better.
Yeah. So he kills Grendel's mom, and he finds Grendel's body that Grendel's mom has carried back into their swamp house, cuts off the head of Grendel's body, and brings that back to the king, and says, look, I did it again. You're welcome.
No, because when he kills Grendel, y'all, the story describes his body as, like, sinking down into the water.
Yeah.
So this man literally, after fighting, was like, you know what? Let me go searching in this gross, disgusting water for the decrepit body I just killed a while ago.
Yeah.
And let me cut its head off. That's disgusting.
He's
committed
so
for
cocky.
real.
He's so cocky. He knows he's a hero, and he knows he's good at what he does.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he's like, I'm young. I'm ready to fight. And then after that, and obviously, they have another party.
Brings it back to the king, and they party again.
They give him, like, tons of treasure, tons of gold, all this stuff, because he saved their kingdom twice. And they, have a crazy party. And then Beowulf says, listen, guys, it's been fun in Scandinavia. I got to go back home to the Gatelands. And I got to go do whatever I'm doing there. I got a king and queen back home. I
want to show y'all how cool I am.
Yeah. See ya. And so he sails back home. And he gets there. And the king and queen are obviously like, whoa, you're a cool hero now. That's amazing. He gives part of his earnings from Scandinavia back to the king and queen of the Gates, and they respect him and whatever. He becomes, like, a member of, like, their nobility, their court, and then years and years and years pass. They both pass away, and Beowulf becomes the king of the Gates. So, like, years and years in the future, he's a king, and he's not, fighting for notoriety. He's not fighting for fame. He's already fought his battles, and all he has to do is, take care of a kingdom. So he's kind of gotten, he's gotten a little complacent. He's like, wow,
he's withered with his old age.
I know I'm good at fighting, but I don't have to do it every day anymore. So I can kind of just, king. Chill on this throne and do my feasts and tell people what to do. Well, the people aren't done fighting him is the problem.
Oh.
So in the Gatelands, there's a thief, and this thief just happens to rob a hoard that belongs to a dragon. This dragon gets pissed, as a dragon would do. I would get mad, of course, right? And I would make it the whole kingdom's problem, personally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Personally, I wouldn't take that.
The dragon, comes out of the hoard and starts eating the livestock, killing the people, just like Grendel.
Grendel 2.0.
Yeah. And Beowulf is like, oh man, well, this is my kingdom. So I definitely have to fight this dragon.
I gotta show up now.
I guess I have to, because I'm Beowulf, and everybody knows how great of a fighter I was. So I gotta do it again. But he's, like, crazy old. So he knows he's gonna die during this fight. He's like, I have to do it, because it's my kingdom, and I'm a hero, but I'm probably gonna die. So he goes, he, straps up, gets his stuff. He goes to fight this dragon. And he wins, because he's such a good fighter. He can't not win. So he kills this dragon. But in the process, he gets bitten by the dragon. And the dragon is poisonous. So the dragon dies, and Beowulf dies also.
No.
Yeah. And he leaves the Gates with no plan for the future. So they are without a king, without any royalty, with no money, and that's kind of where the story ends. It just, lets us know that the Gates have no future and no hope because their hero is gone, and then it's like, okay, bye, the end. it leaves on a very weird note.
Just like, okay, well, story's over, guys. Thanks for hanging.
I hope you liked it. That's it.
I hope you liked it.
Yeah.
That is all.
It's such a very interesting twist from like, hey, look how many great things Beowulf could do. He can't do anything wrong. To this old man is going to die against this dragon, and their whole kingdom is screwed. The end.
Literally.
Yeah, just very much like hopeful, and then like devastating. The passage of time. But yeah,
Dang.
that's the whole plot, pretty much.
That is freaking wild.
I know.
I remember when we were like talking about this too, because we were talking about how all these people, we started talking about it with Lancelot last week, is that all of these old heroic like medieval stories always have like these characters always have like a fatal flaw.
Yeah.
And we were trying to think of Beowulf's flaw. We'll get to talking about that later. But as you were retelling the story, I was like, damn. It's hard to think of a fatal flaw in him.
Yeah, he's doesn't really have anything, because like Lancelot was a good fighter, but he was also an adulterer and like a ladies' man. So he had a weakness, but Beowulf, his like wife isn't even mentioned. He has no weakness.
Wife, no heirs. He left them.
He's not greedy. He gives half of his money back to his king and queen. He's
just too good.
He hears that people need help, and he just sails all the way to Scandinavia to help them. Yeah.
That's great. Imagine being so committed to like he's like, I know I am so good that these people could use my help.
Right? And like, then he wins over and over and over again.
He goes and he wins it every time without fail.
Yeah.
So
such an interesting character.
Yeah, for sure. Which is crazy because I feel like if this was any other character, they would probably be portrayed as like very like almost their confidence would be their downfall, but even his confidence wasn't his downfall because he still won. He beat the dragon.
Right. Yeah, like he's confident, but like because he has a good reason to be. It's not false confidence.
Literally. Yeah, it's not like he has every reason to be confident and knows that he can do what he does. Yeah. So there's a lot of things and a lot of elements and themes within Beowulf besides, his cockiness. But we see a lot about medieval life, which is why I'm glad that Maggie and I actually did a PowerPoint this time, because it actually like kind of forced us, or at least me, to get into like almost like a classroom mindset, like I was back in school. Yeah. And we had to do a project. So like I was like analyzing, I was like looking up sources and researching a bit more. So the Geats that Maggie was referring to is a North Germanic tribe that is part of the Anglo-Saxon society, which Anglo-Saxon is just referring to a bunch of Germanic tribes that were in the area and inhabiting like Great Britain and some other parts of Europe. But yeah, so it's just basically a Germanic tribe that he ended up ruling over, because part of that medieval time of Beowulf, we get this tribal society structure that still had some sort of hierarchy, obviously because he was king, but even from like his actions and his mindset, where like Maggie was like, oh, he still gave some of his riches to people who needed it. He still fought when he needed to and did what he needed to do for his people and even other countries that weren't even his responsibility. And so though we have this hierarchy of kings and lords and lower status people, we still get this sense of tribal culture and structure within this Germanic tribe of people. They spoke many dialects, and they ruled and lived in, like I said, a lot of areas of England and Wales.
Nice.
Right.
Nice.
But of course, we have to talk about their values, because obviously Beowulf was a warrior through and through. And it was obviously reflected in his actions. Man did not back down or stand down, even though he was king and probably didn't have to fight.
Right.
And also literally didn't have to fight when he sailed across the ocean to help another country.
I know. I could have been like, dang,
man's just throwing himself out there, because you know why? They really valued going big or going home or going to other countries, because they have this brave, heroic mindset of all of them through and through. They really respected, honored, and strived for honor, nobility, and power. It wasn't always about gold and this and that. It was really about proving yourself to the rest of society. And you couldn't do that without doing things like the stuff that Beowulf did. And of course, last but not least, we can't go without mentioning the parties.
They partied it up.
They just didn't stop. They did not stop.
Every ounce of good news, they're like, we should definitely have a feast about this. We definitely should.
They were like, this is actually brilliant. Let's have another one. The other one just ended an hour ago. Let's do it again.
Celebrate that one ending and have another party.
Yeah, and everyone was probably invited and involved. There was music and singing and dancing and loud rejoicing, as it stated. And of course, they loved celebrating everyone's heroic act. So anytime anyone did any ounce, they were like, well, let's just party because you're so honorable and loyal. You are so good. Like, even if they were like, here's the goal, they still all partied it up. It wasn't just physical reward. It was literally society was like almost bowing at your feet and celebrating your existence in these moments.
Yeah.
Because they really treasured the heroism of it all. They really valued this warrior mindset, which I feel like kind of makes sense, especially if you're like in a kind of tribal society or tribal structure where like your cultures kind of rely on each other. Taking care of each other. So it is a little interesting. But that was some medieval life that we see through Beowulf. Yes.
I have a question for you. So it was set in kind of the 6th century, but it was written in the 700s to the 900s, which is after. So culture might have shifted a little bit. Do you think that the parties being constantly interrupted by demons, do you think that is a commentary on their party culture?
Oh, maybe.
Because in my mind, I'm thinking they're having all of these indulgent parties, and it was set before the bubonic plague, but it was written after. So they're having all these indulgent parties, being very, gluttonous and spending all this time and money on things that don't matter. And then a demon comes in and starts killing all their livestock and ruining their crops and their livelihood. So I wonder if it's like kind of, what's the word? Like an analogy?
Yeah, I wonder if
indulging in like worldly desires.
Exactly. Like they probably partied so much that like things like the bubonic plague did happen. And so having it be written after, they were like, okay, this is what y'all did, but we need to make sure society stays in check with overindulging. So let's just write this out so it looks like you're not allowed to party and and do all this other stuff. Because even when he, in the end, even when things are supposed to be good, when he was a king and a ruler and all this other stuff, there were still people that were like, hey, we're here to keep you in check still.
Yeah.
And the dragon comes and don't get comfortable.
Yeah.
Like whenever something's gonna happen, you gotta wait for the other shoe to drop too. Don't get too excited. Like that, you know what I mean? I can see that being why that's written that way.
Yeah. Especially Grendel and Grendel's mom coming like directly from nature, like from the woods and from the swamp. Like,
oh my god, exactly.
Like you guys are literally destroying the earth with your creation and your parties and your farming techniques. It's not sustainable and you're all gonna die.
Yeah, and I mean, so even coming from, I'll talk a little bit more about this, I think, in the next slide too. But even coming from a place of, like, when it takes place, and even some of the time that it was probably written before it was all put together, takes place in a more pagan world before the rise of Christianity. So we have probably all these tribes and cultures that actually valued and strived and believed in nature. And then we have this clash of, okay, but we have this overindulgence that is the opposite of coming together with nature and instead harming it. And it clashes with beliefs of, I wouldn't be surprised if some of the writers were were pagan and then also Christian at the
Right?
just having all
Mhm.
of these clashes of ideas. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it was some sort of analogy for humans' destructive ways, not even just overindulgence, but or greediness, but just their connection with nature and thinking that they are always on top.
Yeah, trying to like rule it instead of be a part of it.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
even the thief, like, he takes something that isn't his, and then he ends up, killing a ton of people in the
Mm-hmm.
Danelands. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
And then
interesting.
as a result, the dragon comes out and kills the things that they need, like their livestock,
Yeah.
the things that keep them alive. He's
Yeah.
like, fuck you guys.
Right.
Yeah, so the literature, like I was saying, is set in a pre-Christian era, but there are a lot of Christian references scattered throughout the poem.
Mhm.
And that's because I'm guessing that even though it's set in the pre-Christian era, it was kind of written in a Christian-esque era.
Yeah.
But yeah, we that I think that's partially why we see this clash of kind of nature versus man
Mhm.
because of the way that pagans often valued nature, and it clashes with the Christians' idea of, you know, I personally don't think Christianity or Catholicism
Yeah.
has a very deep connection to nature. It's a very, at least nowadays, it's
Yeah.
a very man-centric
Oh, for sure.
religion for sure.
Mhm. Yeah. I
And
think
so
I
I
think kind of the character of Beowulf in it itself could be interpreted as a messiah figure.
Oh,
And
yeah.
there's like the demons, or the, like, the evil that's coming from Grendel and Grendel's mom and the dragon, and then the people who have destroyed all of, like, have done these things to destroy their land and their livestock, and then Beowulf has to come in and solve all their problems for them.
Yeah,
Very,
for sure.
yeah.
For sure.
hmm It could definitely be interpreted that way. It could also be interpreted like all these Anglo-Saxons are coming in, destroying nature, and the Grendel and Grendel's mom are just like physical manifestations of their own consequences.
Yeah.
And then, Beowulf, I don't know what he would represent in that one. What do you think?
Hmm. I guess like I don't know. I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to think because I love that there are so many ways to think about
I
this.
know.
And we wouldn't be talking like this if we didn't do our research either.
I know. We had to be this
We
good
put
every week.
I know we had
Yeah.
we already set the bar low
We
and then it got high, guys.
got so
We gotta make
high.
sure we
Yeah.
keep it up.
But also, this is like considered one of the best works of
That is
literature of
true.
all time.
That
So
is true.
definitely much to think about.
Well, yeah, I mean
hmm
the literature itself is not it's an epic poem. So an epic poem basically just means that it's super long. Like it's epic because
It's
it's so
epically
large.
long.
It's epically large, super long, might as well be a regular book, but it's
Yeah.
structured like a poem.
hmm
And then we get these reflections of society, like we talked about, and then we get seriously complex emotions. We get like magical and ordinary world elements,
hmm
and all these poetic elements like vivid imagery, repetition, and we get this kind of musical quality of the verses, which can kind of resemble what is it, Psalms?
Yeah. Yeah. Psalms is just
Um,
like a collection of
just like a
songs
collection
that
of
King David wrote.
yeah. So I
hmm
mean, it could kind of be probably like one of the earliest mythological
Yeah.
medieval psalms we got
Nice.
going
Yeah.
on here.
That's really
But
cool.
yeah, I don't know. I think that if they would represent the consequences,
hmm
then right? Okay, wait a minute. I was just thinking because I
You're
was like,
cooking.
I'm cooking, guys.
I'm
Give me a
cooking.
second. Okay, so I was thinking like obviously there's some sort of karma going on here, right?
hmm
Because ultimately in the end, though he doesn't get slain directly by any of these things that get thrown in his way. His Grendel, his mom, or the dragon, or anything, right? But he ultimately does fail in a sense because he leaves his kingdom with nothing.
Yeah.
He did slay the dragon. He got the glory of at least doing that, but his kingdom is left with nothing now because he was so eager to be the hero again and again and again. And would he have been the king if he hadn't done those previous things and brought honor to himself and glory to himself? Who knows if he would have even been king. But killing them had put him in that position, and he still felt the need to slay the dragon, and he did, and ultimately it was his demise. It's kind of like a karma. Like, even if you think you're succeeding, as long as you're, you know, there's always something, like what goes around comes around. So the nature ultimately came back, and it was the nature that had killed him with the poison.
Wow. I put this on one of our later slides, but throughout the writing, they refer to death, and they use the word fate in place of the word death.
Yeah.
And I think kind of what, like you're saying, is like his destiny was to be a hero and to fight, but ultimately all of that fighting, everything he was supposed to do, led to him dying anyway. So that was kind of his ultimate fate was to die at the end.
To die regardless.
Because I mean, he didn't get killed. He basically died because he was old, and he just like couldn't fight anymore. So no matter what he did, like fate, destiny arrives all the same.
Yeah, it comes to you no matter what. You know, and that's, I suppose, like a lot of people would argue, like, is fate or destiny real, or does free will exist? Because he chose to sail the ocean, but you know, was it fate that Grendel was disrupting the party, and he happened to hear about it, or you know, did he just go because he chose to? Because if it was any other person, would they have done the same as him? Right? So like, you know, if it was anyone else that heard about him disrupting the party and all this other stuff, would they have done the same as him and sailed the ocean, ended up killing his mom, or even succeeding in killing Grendel? And you know, if it was anyone else besides Beowulf, would that have happened? Probably not.
And kind of in the
same
in the same vein, if he had done all that, become the king, and then when the dragon attacked, he decided not to fight, he wouldn't have been poisoned, and he wouldn't have died then, but he would have been seen as the king who didn't fight, and all of the things he did in the past wouldn't matter, and he would die of old age.
Be a coward now.
He would die of old age, known as the washed-up guy who didn't fight the dragon.
But his kingdom wouldn't be left in the dust with nobody to rule or take care of it.
He would have a plan for the future, but he would lose his whole legacy.
So it's kind of like, you know, is fate really like, was his whole life destined to be this way, or you know, was it his choices that made him this way?
Wow,
it's kind of interesting food for thought.
It is.
I love the argument of fate versus free will, because it's like, it's my favorite thing are philosophical arguments, because there's no right or wrong answer, and also we will never know the answer.
Right, I could just stew in it forever and change my mind 1,000 times.
I literally not know any answer at all whatsoever. And when it comes to a lot of like philosophical arguments, most people have completely different answers, because there are so many sides and levels to the coin. Like, I remember when I used to, in my philosophy class, like one of the heaviest things that is always discussed is justice. This idea of justice and what justice actually means. And of course, that's different for every society, but also every culture and person. And justice looks different to everybody. You know, Batman thinks he's justice, and some people would just call him a lunatic. Like, you know, so I imagine, you know, while they were probably celebrating Beowulf, I'm sure the nature, for example, Grendel's mom thought he was the bad guy because he murdered her son. You know? So, but meanwhile, humans over here are partying and celebrating this man for killing this creature. And she's
Right?
like, "Oh my God, you literally ruined my
My
life.
son.
My
Yeah.
son.
Mhm.
My boy.
My
My
boy.
boy." Insert Harry Potter clip.
That's my boy.
That's my boy.
R.I.P.
Horrible. Anyway, sorry,
Sad.
sorry.
Poor Cedric. You will be
Yikes.
missed. You will be
Bad
missed.
joke, bad joke. But yeah, it's tough to say because, you know, is Fate Grendel going to the party to begin with, or, you know, was that just his choice because he wanted to fuck around and find out, you know?
Right? Yeah. 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 Because
But yeah,
there's so many things that could have happened differently, and then this story wouldn't have even existed at all. Because like if Beowulf didn't go, there's no point in writing an epic about the hero who didn't fight.
the hero who didn't fight, man.
But at the end, it's him fighting that caused him to die, and the story to end.
He was like, I still gotta be my heroic self, even in my old age. I gotta show these people what I'm about. But like, I wonder if people, because obviously it ends with the story being like, yeah, and he left his kingdom with nothing. And it's like, so what's his legacy really? You know, yeah, he fought all of those things, but what is his real legacy if the people who he left are probably just like, what the fuck did our king leave us for?
What now? Yeah.
What now, man?
We are so
like, why'd he fight that dragon for?
Yeah. But then if he didn't fight, they would have been like, yo,
they probably would have said the exact same thing.
I thought you were Beowulf. I thought you were
Bro, I thought you were so cool. I thought our king was brave. Come on, man.
Yeah. Oh man, I do not want to be Beowulf. I do not want to be a leader of any group of people.
Don't make me king. Don't make me king.
Please. Not Maggie 2024.
What is the quote that you wrote for the story, Maggie?
So this quote, I thought it tied in very well with the, life or death and what you leave behind and things like that. And so I have this little quote from Beowulf. And it goes like this. Wanting to stay, we go, all beings here on God's earth. Whether it is written that we go, taking our bodies from death's cold bed to unbroken sleep that follows life's feast. I also like that it called life a feast, and kind of like you're taking and you're indulging and you're doing all of these things in life. And then as soon as you die, like all of that is over and it's just nothing. It's just, a sleep. And it's kind of like, even if you do leave a legacy behind, what good does that do for you? Because you're dead.
Because you're dead.
And all you are is a story now.
Yeah. It's interesting because, so, wanting to stay and like, where he's like, we go, like, regardless, period. End of story. Whether like it's fate or free will, we all end up in the dirt the same way, no matter how we end up there. You know what I mean? And this is a good quote too, because it really shows like all beings here on God's earth. I'm like, okay, well, this is a good example of the religious connection and imagery that we were talking about earlier. But it's like wherever it's written, that we go to, what, like, no matter what you believe in, our bodies will still end up in the dirt. Dead. In this forever unbroken sleep. And referring to it as sleep is so nice because it's kind of like peaceful. It's kind of like, I'm sure that wherever we end up, it's not going to be this horrible thing that comes after our indulgences and our parties and things like that. It doesn't look at so a feast, I feel like it makes it assume that like this is the best, no matter what decisions you make or things happen in life or whatever. You get your fill. You get what is necessary for you and whatever you want, however you want it. So a feast could mean many things to different people. Like a man having his last meal in jail would probably consider that the best feast of his life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we still all get that feast regardless of who we are, where we are, whatever.
Yeah. It kind of makes life sound like a big Thanksgiving dinner. and you're going back for seconds. You're fighting with your grandparents, you're hanging out with the kids' table, all this, and you're eating, and you're so
Absolutely.
full at the end, and then you lay down and you take your Thanksgiving nap, and it's all
You're like,
over.
good night.
And it's done.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, I mean, after that, you wake up and you're hungry again, because everything that happened the day before doesn't matter the day after. And everything that you did in your life has already passed on.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Because after Beowulf died, like, yeah, he left his kingdom behind, but he also had no more fights to fight. He had no more demons to kill.
Yeah, it was just done for
problems
him.
The problems to solve. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I guess it was very peaceful. A nice rest for him after doing all that.
Freak. Oh, you were like, whatever. I wanted to touch on something because you were like, whatever we indulge in or take in this life, doesn't come with us in the afterlife, which is kind of true. But in some cultures, it's not actually true. For example, the Egyptians had buried their pharaohs with all of their things for them to take into the afterlife, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. The same way some people still do to this day, just put stuff in people's tombstones for them to take to the afterlife. Or Dia de los Muertos. My information comes purely from Coco. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, so this could be wrong. I'm so sorry.
Coco disclaimer.
Disclaimer. I saw this in Coco, so we'll just refer to it as Coco instead of the actual culture.
In Coco.
But in Coco, they have the ofrendas for their dead and put all of their favorite things so that when they come back to Earth, they can indulge in all of their favorite things. Still, the feast continues. Yeah. In a different way, in a different life. So it could very well be that this life's feast is over, but maybe there is more because he's no longer on God's earth, but he's still in this sleep in the after. And that could literally mean anything. Right. Even we even dream in our sleep. So if the sleep is unbroken, maybe he's living a whole new life.
He's having an even better feast.
He's having an even better feast.
That is really interesting.
Yeah, just a little food for thought, Yeah.
Speaking of food for thought. So my first question, I would say we kind of talked about them fighting and them feasting and why they do that and when. Ari, if you were in this world, would you fight and feast at the same times as them?
I don't know. Yeah. Well, I feel like I'm all down for like partying all the time, but fighting all the time and then celebrating it afterwards all the time. Right. I feel like I would just feel like we're celebrating just death. We're celebrating all of the bad things and not just the good things. But I guess in their perspective, it would be like we're celebrating that we won instead of they lost type of idea. But yeah, I don't know. It just feels definitely like overindulgence. Especially in context. Like I can't imagine fighting a war and then like going home being like, yeah.
Like, you see what we just did to that guy's mom?
Like, definitely.
Let's have another party.
Party.
Crazy.
Like, absolutely not. Yeah. Maybe like I feel like definitely not for Grendel and his mom, but for the dragon, I would party it up.
Oh, I'd be having a party.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Exactly. Slay the dragon.
Unless my king died and left us with no plan for the future, I don't think I would party then. I'd be like, that's crazy.
Be like, definitely not gonna party that he slayed the dragon because now he did.
What is our political plan?
Our kingdom's gonna fall apart. But I also like the way that you phrase this question because, like, the one that you wrote is when do you fight and like when do you feast, which like goes like it begs to question like when it's appropriate to do either one of those things. Yeah. How often is it okay to fight? Because it seemed like his whole life he was fighting. Right. I mean, he went out of his way. He went out of his way to pick a fight.
Exactly. Just because he was a fighter. Like that's what he did.
Like, is that right of him to do that? Like to, he changed the fate of that entire town, I assume. By protecting them,
Saved all those people. Yeah.
but was that right of him to pick that fight and to take charge of that fight? But also, when do you feast? That's interesting because feasting, again, implies like there's a party, but you always have to eat. But you're not always feasting. But I like the idea of celebrating sustenance, like giving yourself what you need. So I kind of wish every meal was a feast. Like a little party to celebrate.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good. I'll put a pin
Not
in
even
that
like
a good side quest.
Yeah, like not even overindulging in ourselves, but like just like looking at this being like the same way that people so like with having an eating disorder, a lot of people are like, okay, remind yourself that your body needs this sustenance, that this is fuel for your body and not something to be ashamed of, that you have to eat food, basically. So the idea of like taking this thing where it's like, yeah, they're partying, but they're not just partying, they're feasting. They're not overindulging, but they're indulging in what is necessary for them to live and turning it into something that's really fun and really positive. And like that took a serious turn, but that was my thoughts.
that is really cool. I've seen people a bunch of like romanticize your life, things like that.
Yes.
Who they will like when they're making food or they're making like a special coffee that they like, they'll name it something every day. And so they'll name it like optimism or like energy, and then they'll drink it
cool.
and it kind of like inspires them to feel that. So I think,
I like that.
If you call a meal a feast instead of just like my lunch break.
Yeah, my lunch break.
Lunchbox lunch.
Time to feast.
Yeah. If you're like, oh, I'm having my Wednesday afternoon feast. It feels more like special, and it feels like there's a reason you're eating because you're fueling, you're giving yourself life after all of this.
The same way they celebrated these things, we can celebrate the stuff that we do and go through to get to these meals.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think I'll be feasting more often.
Yes, me too.
Yeah. All right, question number 2. Does fate equal death in your eyes?
I think that if I have to say yes or no, the answer is yes. But the only reason I say that is because death is the only thing that is sure.
Yeah.
So it is fate. We don't know when or how, but it is the only thing that is true. Because we all die. Our mortality is what it is. We don't live forever. We haven't figured it out scientifically. And, until the day I become a vampire,
very soon, hopefully.
Very soon, hopefully, so I can be prime age of...
Right, this is exactly how I want to look as a vampire.
Exactly how I want to stay forever.
Vampires, hit us up in the comments.
Please. But it's the only thing that is for sure that we know that could happen anytime, whenever. So I suppose, yes, fate does equal death. No, death equals fate. But fate does not equal death. I'll say it that way. I'll say it that way.
I like it. In my opinion, I feel like I equate the word fate with like destiny a lot. But I feel like everyone's fate is to die, but I don't think everyone's destiny is. I think destiny is like would be like your purpose in life.
Kind of like closer to your purpose.
Like Beowulf's destiny was to be a great fighter and a great king. But at the end of the day, even great kings and great fighters have to die. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I like that way of putting it. That's better.
Yeah. And the second part of this question is, do all of the great things that he did in his life matter after his death?
I would say, okay, from a religious and even spiritual standpoint, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Right? Because like the Egyptians have your heart is weighed against a feather on the scales with Anubis. And what's it called? And God is like, hey, do you believe in me? Do you renounce all your sins? And then you can go to heaven. And
and then you go to heaven.
And if you do that, then you go to heaven. And if not, then bye-bye. But what's it called? And I guess spiritually, a lot of people believe in karma and being reborn. And so I guess your accomplishments, I wouldn't say it's just your accomplishments that matter. It's everything. It's your connections and how you treated people, and your failures as well as your accomplishments, maybe. I would say it's more so why or how you achieved those things instead of the accomplishments themselves. Like, if you think about it, like, for example, taking a test. If you were to cheat off of somebody in order to get 100% on your test, you didn't really learn anything.
Yeah.
And you did something that was morally and ethically wrong. And so at the end of the day, you are in the wrong. But if you studied and asked for help and worked on those things, you not only build yourself better, but you avoid making those ethically and morally wrong judgments. So the two versions of yourself, one of them is going to get detention and the other one is going to get a gold star.
Yeah.
Your accomplishment is the gold star, or your accomplishment would be the 100%. But one of you is a better person than the other version of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So I would say how they get there.
How they get there. I like that.
Is what I think matters after death, and not just the accomplishments.
I think
I was gonna say thoughts, but I was waiting for you to cook a little bit because you looked a little.
In my head, I was like so real.
Thoughts are brewing.
Okay, you're gonna hate this, but the only thing that comes to my mind is the song at the very end of Hamilton. It's called "Who Lives, Who Dies, Who Tells Your Story."
Who tells your story?
And it's after Hamilton has died, and it's all the people that he's come across in his life, saying all the things that he has done for them and for America that will affect us for years and years to come. And so even though Beowulf died and left his country, he saved Scandinavia twice. He saved all those people that lived there. He had a great kingdom. He, gave money to the king and queen and all the people in the Gatelands that he went back to. He changed so many people's lives enough that people wanted to write a story about it, and they wrote this story. And so even if he's dead and all the things don't matter to him anymore, and like his story can't be continued, all the things that he's done in the past will be told by those people for years and years to come. And he becomes more than himself, and he becomes all of the things instead.
Yeah. I would suppose that, like, from an earthly perspective, I like, you're right. And then from a not earthly perspective, I'm also right.
Yeah.
Because, like, for him, obviously his accomplishments may not matter anymore than by who he was, or whatever. But if he did save all those people, like, those people are alive and their lineages get to live on, and all this other stuff, the same way that people still look at pieces of our history and still talk about them and teach them and learn them, because those accomplishments do matter. But also, accomplishments is a matter of perspective as well.
Right, yeah.
Because some would say, colonizing America is an accomplishment.
Right, and the people that had those legacies back then, their legacy has completely changed in our minds now.
Yeah. Like, they would be so so distraught at the way that
right.
their legacy has shifted from
They're
probably
like,
what their minds.
Back when I died, I was a hero.
I was so cool, man.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
You're a monster and we hate you. Yeah.
We literally hate you.
Yeah. I mean, but that's just the thing. Like, when you die, all you are is the stories that people tell about you. And I guess all your accomplishments, all the things that you do on Earth while you're here, that's all you have left to people to talk about.
I will say,
Mm-hmm.
Coco reference.
Back to Coco.
Back to Coco real quick. So one of the spirits on the other side, for many years did not get his picture on the ofrenda. He was on nobody's ofrenda.
Yeah.
And when somebody forgets about you in the real world, you ultimately die in the afterlife. And so in the movie, spoilers for people who haven't watched Coco, it's so good. Please watch it.
It's really good.
It's so good. But ultimately, he ends up being forgotten, and we see him literally cease to exist, even in the afterlife, because people in the real live world have forgotten about him altogether. And so, you know, picturing it like that would be really interesting when it comes to pieces of our history, because the all these people that came before us, their legacy is really all we have to go on them, because we didn't know any of these people personally and everything else. We only have their feats, accomplishments, their failures, you know, what we know from articles of history to go by and to live by. And that's what's keeping them ultimately alive. I mean, I imagine artists want to be seen and known and understood on a different level, and that's why they create the things that they do and connect with people the way that they do, because that's part of what being an artist is, and creating things for people to see and being perceived in a different way, or understanding the world in a different way. So like,
according to Hamilton, a legacy is planting seeds in a garden you never get to see. And every time I hear that line, I'm like, yo, that's crazy.
That's so true.
That's crazy. Because Beowulf's doing all this stuff in hopes to be remembered as a great man. Yeah. But then he dies, and he doesn't know people are still telling his story.
Yeah, he has no control over that. So it's just kind of like, hope to do it or not.
Right. Like we can make art forever with just the hope, the desire that will be our legacy when we die.
Exactly.
Wow.
Like this podcast.
This is our legacy.
This is our legacy. Food for thought, guys.
Food for thought. Okay, well, here's our
me and Maggie destined to do this podcast.
An existential crisis right now, for real.
Ladies, we have to end this episode.
What is our legacy? Okay, we have one more question, which should be pretty easy. What is Beowulf's fatal flaw? As a perfect hero, a perfect fighter,
as a perfect man who only died because he was bit by poison and old. Yeah. I would say his only flaw is that he's not a vampire.
That's really it. His only flaw is that he's a human.
That his fatal flaw is a mortal flaw. Yeah. He is not invincible.
All humans die.
I mean, some could argue that he was just cocky. He let his pride get the better of him.
He should have known to be like, hey, let me sit this one out.
And let me sit this one out. I'm super old, but I'll delegate people to go get a champion to do it. Exactly. Exactly. Because even if that was true, he would still, be able to protect his kingdom. He might not be looked at as a coward, because it's like, hey, you know what? You're noble and honest enough to realize you're an old ass man who shouldn't be fighting this dragon. And but if he just like didn't do anything, I can understand why people would be like, come on, man, what the fuck? Right. But yeah, I would think his fatal flaw is literally that he's just a human being.
Yeah, which is so sad, because like he was perfect.
Yeah,
but he still had.
But he lived his life to the best of his capabilities until literally the very end.
The very end.
I don't think Beowulf had any regrets.
I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, even leaving his kingdom with like nowhere to go. Yeah, I feel like everyone is gonna have to leave something unfinished behind. So he did the best he could with the time that he had. Yeah,
I would say that it is important to look at Beowulf's story and think about your own fate and what it would mean for you to leave a legacy, and what is your legacy that you are leaving behind. And honestly, it's even another food for thought that we don't have to answer, but I want y'all to think about and maybe tell us answers in the comments. Leave this for you guys. Is that what is this is a philosophical question. There are no right and wrong answers. But what would be more important? The legacy and accomplishments that you leave behind, or who you are in the end? Because Beowulf stayed true to himself until the very end. Even if it meant dying and leaving behind his kingdom in probably chaos, right? But he was still true to himself and did what he did and slayed the dragon, died, and that's it. So like what would you say is more important? Is leaving behind some sort of legacy or staying true to yourself in all that jazz?
That is a really good question.
Yeah.
We should come back to it after in the next week.
We'll come back next week.
Next week, I'll have a great, super smart answer for you.
But yeah, so now that we have gone through and analyzed Beowulf, I hope y'all enjoyed Maggie and I getting a little deep and kind of being doing a literary analysis of this old
this week.
medieval. No, seriously, we get into it.
We get into it.
But yeah. But now we have a quest for y'all.
We do have a quest. My quest. Your side quest for the week would be to pick a time to feast.
Yes.
I think that is
love it.
Really good.
Pick a time to feast.
Yeah. Make yourself a really good meal, or, go through a drive-thru if you don't have time. But really, be intentional about where you eat it, when you eat it. Sit down and be like, I'm celebrating the fact that I got to the weekend. Or I'm celebrating the fact that I had a really good hair day. Something like that. And this is the feast I prepare for myself to celebrate it. Or like I said, with like the coffee, like make yourself a coffee, make yourself a sweet little drink, make yourself a smash.
And name it.
Name it.
Smash.
And be like, this is my special potion for Thursday afternoons. And then be like, this drink will get me through a Thursday afternoon, and then you drink it.
Yes.
Yeah, something like that. Just, think about.
Love it.
Be intentional with the things that you're putting into your body, the things that are giving you life. And take your time. Be intentional.
Yeah. I'm also gonna give y'all a little Ari side quest. I want y'all to think of the next, until next Monday, I want you to kind of look at the world a little bit philosophically and thinking that there is no right or wrong answer to anything. And I want you to look and see how that changes or shifts your mindset. Instead of thinking that something is black and white, try to look at it as more of a grayscale or no scale at all.
Yeah.
And I want you to see how your opinions or your mindset is changing based on trying to look at the world a different way. Why is life the way that it is? I mean, it might get existential, but sometimes we have to be.
Yeah.
I think that it's okay to get existential, but I also wanted to point out, because I saw this TikTok of a artist. Her name is Aurora. And she's very like down to earth, I would say.
Yeah.
And there's a clip of her online where she's like, someone said like, oh, who are you? And she's like, I don't know who I am. And she was like, but honestly, I don't think it's my business to know who I am, because I just am who I am.
Yeah.
I just am who I am. So what is the purpose of trying to figure out who I am if I just am?
Yeah.
And I really have been thinking and stewing a lot about that, because she's so right.
Right?
Because she is so right. So
I spend so much time like in my head, like, ooh, what kind of person am I? That's not really my business.
Yeah. And I know that that's like a little counterproductive from us being like, hey guys, let's figure out our purposes and our quests and go on them. But I think there's a difference between trying to like change who you are at your core, like your core self, your soul being, and trying to, grow essentially
for
into a better
Mhm.
version of ourselves. We are still ourselves, whoever that is.
Mhm.
But, you know,
We're
upgrading
improving
our
upon the things,
routines and
yeah,
improving
first.
upon the
Mhm.
things we already have are you know,
Yeah, I
still
love
ways
that.
we are being true to ourselves. But
Mhm.
yeah, that's just a little tangent.
I like it. I like it. It's very good. Very good.
But
Mhm.
yes, we have another episode and a new guest coming out on
Yes,
Thursday.
we do. It's gonna be so
I hope
great.
you guys are gonna love it because
Yeah, it's
we loved recording it.
We had a blast.
We definitely had a blast.
Yeah.
But you can catch us every Monday and Thursday on YouTube and Spotify for some new episodes,
Mhm.
and all over our social medias. The Questing Hour Podcast, Questing HR Podcast, on pretty much everything except Twitter. We are just the Questing Hour.
Yeah.
I forgot.
The what is that thing that we do?
You know, that social media website.
What is that? What is that thing we do, and for how long of a period of time? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's the questing hour.
Oh yeah, that one
It's
hour
the hour of
every.
questing. Yeah, you know
we're
the hour that
questing.
we quest. Yeah.
Yeah, we be doing that.
We quest for about an hour or so.
Just like an hour every
Roughly an
2
hour
days
of going on some
just
quest-like adventures.
questing.
Yeah,
you know.
that's kind of our whole thing. So if you like it, subscribe, and we'll be
Yes,
back
please
on
subscribe,
Thursday.
comment, and give us a like. And we love you
Yes,
guys so much.
we
And
love
we'll
you so
see you
much.
on Thursday. Farewell, travelers.
Farewell.